Good evening. Happy Sunday. I am going to talk to you today about what I did this week, and I'm super excited about that. And it wasn't planned at all. So, I don't know how many of you have had surgery, are looking into surgery for your lipedema. I have always said that I didn't see a huge amount of point in having a lipedema diagnosis unless you could afford surgery. And let's face it, the cost of surgery for lipedema is through the roof. It is extraordinary, considering it has so many dire effects on our bodies and therefore, uh, weighs down on our medical system. It just seems ludicrous to me that places like Australia, America, Canada, I don't know where else, does not recognise lipedema as an issue within the system. So, if you don't know my story, I started out my journey with lipedema well into my thyroid journey. I did not know I had lipedema. I even became a naturopath and clinical nutritionist at the age of 40 to figure out my thyroid disease. Not once did lipedema come up in 4 years of study at college. So, lymphedema absolutely came up, and the lymphatics came up. There was something about the lymphatics that actually drew my attention in college, but because everything that I learned, I kind of pinned to thyroid disease because I thought that was my whole problem. I thought that was why I couldn't lose weight, was my thyroid. I didn't really put much attention into lipedema or the lymphatics. So it wasn't until well after finishing studying and graduating and launching thyroid school, because I thought still that was my whole problem in life, that I went to a manual lymphatic drainage lady who was an oncology nurse that specialised in lymphedema. And when I sat down beside her, she said to me, "Oh, you're a lippy lady." And I said, "A what?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, you've got lipedema." Gave me some paperwork, and it was very straightforward and matter of fact to her. So that was the first time I'd heard of lipedema. I still didn't do much about it because I didn't really understand, and there wasn't that much information about it that I could find at that time. And so, life just kept going on, and I kept thinking it was my thyroid that I had to deal with. As time went by, I started to follow some lipedema pages, and I started to understand that perhaps the whole reason I could not lose the weight that I put on when my thyroid tanked when I was 21 years old was the lipedema. So you hear of in the thyroid world, a lot of women that get put on medication, thyroxine or whatever, and their weight just disappears as quickly as it came on, just like magic, right? But there's a subset of women that doesn't happen for. And I'm beginning to believe now that subset of women have lipedema, because there is a higher incidence of lipedema women with thyroid disease or thyroid women with lipedema. So I'm going to say that the fat or the weight that I put on when my thyroid tanked was actually lipedema fat, and therefore could not be dieted and exercised away, even though I was taking medication and all my lab results were fine. So, after trying everything and being determined that, yep, I can do this, I can lose this weight, and I did the green juice fasts and I did the plant-based eating and I did all the things that I thought I could do, and nothing changed. Anyway, fast forward to about 2021, no, it must have been 2022, and I had a lady from thyroid school contact me and say to me that they wanted me to coach them through a gastric sleeve surgery. I said, "I'm not your person. I haven't been through it." And I highly advocate for people to see practitioners that have potentially been through their problem or living with their problem, because more invested in the outcome or will do more research around it or understands it better. And I said, "I'm not your person. You probably need to see somebody else, because I've never considered a gastric sleeve because I don't eat much," which is a thyroid thing, right? Anyway, she insisted. And so I said, "Look, let me research it. I will come back to you." And I researched it, and I came across some studies about Hashimoto's, which is what I have, and the gastric sleeve helping it. But the kicker was I also came across studies that it improved lipedema outcomes, not because it removed lipedema fat, but because it removed all other fat around the lipedema. And from the studies that and the research that I've done, I understand now that lipedema attracts other fat, and it's just like this compounding effect. So yes, you've got the lipedema fat, but your normal fat you attract more of when you have this disease. Anyway, it seemed like, well, you know what? I've done literally everything else. Who else out there has done literally everything known to man to lose weight and nothing has budged? You begin to think it's your fault, right? You think there's something wrong with you, that you're just, fooling yourself, that you have no willpower, whatever it is, you start to believe all the other things, that it's you that's the problem. Well, I decided to take a chance on gastric sleeve surgery because I was like, I've done everything else and I don't eat much. So what have I got to lose, right? So in 2022, oh, by the way, I went back to that lady and said to her, not only will I coach you through it, I'm going to do it myself. To which she replied, oh, I've decided not to do it anymore. So she was put in my way just to research and just to find these studies around lipedema, thyroid disease, and the gastric sleeve. So in 2022, I went ahead, had the gastric sleeve. Funnily enough, my surgeon knew what lipedema was. And so that was like a shock for me because generally nobody knows anything about it. The surgery was successful. I lost 60 kilos, which is about 130 pounds, something like that, over most of it within a year and a little bit, sort of a bit longer. I seem to be stable now. And then that led me to having a lot of excess skin. And because I'm one of the 30% of women that have had the lipedema in the arms, my arms were quite considerably hanging down here. And so that was causing me issues. And so I had those done. That was the first surgery I had. You can see you can slightly see the scar down there. So very successful surgery. I'm very happy with them. And that was amazing. And funnily enough, the surgeon that I saw in Perth for this, again, I was driven by my gut intuition as to who I chose. And I know that's not everybody's thing, but that's the way I work. And although she is not what's classed as a lipedema specialist, and I know in Australia everybody is chasing the lipedema specialists, she was just a really good reconstructive surgeon. When I went and saw her in Perth, she knew about lipedema. She discussed, how to do my arms so that she spared the lymphatic net and kept it all in one piece, which was amazing. And she even took videos and photos and gave them to me afterwards of the inside of my arm, showing the lymphatic net that she'd pulled up. So insane. And yeah, so that surgery was really great and very successful. I recovered really well. However, the downside to that, being Australia, that surgery for the surgeon alone for the arms was $15,000 and another $5,000 on top of that for the anaesthetist. I've never paid $5,000 for an anaesthetist ever, but obviously with this kind of surgery, they can, I guess, is how it works. And then it was another $5,000 on top of that for us to fly from Karratha to Perth and accommodation during that time. So $25,000 all up. Now, not too many people have got $25,000 all up sitting around that they can spare on this kind of surgery. So I was really lucky and grateful that we did. We took a chance on it. Now, I did have private health and a very specific private health through a company, and I got most of that back. I got 20 back, but it was a risk because we did not think we would get it back. And so that 20,000 we put aside because we knew we were moving to Bangkok. And we decided that the rest of my surgeries I would have here. Now, the kind of surgeries that I need now is the tummy, because I've got a rather large overhang from the excessive weight loss. And then there's sort of side lift and potentially breast lift. Not sure yet. You can kind of, I don't know if you can see in this camera, but you can see there's an overhang everywhere kind of thing, which would happen when you lose a whole person, right? My legs, I would love to have my legs done. However, up until now, I was unsure of whether or not I would have my legs done in Bangkok. Um, they are very good at what they do here. Yes, it's medical tourism. However, these doctors, they've got world-class hospitals, world-class doctors, and they do this day in, day out. This is they know it backwards, front ways, they know everything about it. And I feel very comfortable going to a doctor who does this every day of their life, right? So I'm not at all, and because the hospitals are like number 4 in the world in Thailand, right? So I'm not slumming it. However, the price is significantly different. So I knew coming here I wanted to have my tummy done and my neck done because I've got and I've got a filter on this, right? So just to be transparent, so you can't see quite how saggy my neck is and how saggy everything else is. So I'm going to do this. I'm not doing this, but I am doing this. And my tummy. And they were going to be definitely, because I could have them done so much cheaper here. My legs, I was like, oh, I don't know, because the legs are where the lymphatics, that's where the lipedema is. And so I was sort of like, oh, I'm not sure what I'm doing about that. And so I didn't really, I had even considered, now that we're in Bangkok, we're closer to Turkey, we're closer to Germany, where, you hear of a lot of people having the lipedema surgery on their legs there, which is still so much cheaper than Australia. So while we were talking, so last week, track back, last week, we had to leave our condo so that they could fix the aircon. So just when we knew we had to go out the next day, I got an email from my liaison with this company saying, how are you going? Are you still interested in doing this? And I was like, oh, actually, yes. And I'm here in Australia. I'm here in Bangkok, and I can come to your office. And so she gave me the address and said, meet me tomorrow. And so hubby and I got on the SkyTrain and headed our way to the office. And as I said, I wasn't planning it quite this quickly. We wanted to settle in first. And we got there. And so we had a really big, long conversation. We were there for an hour and a half, I think, speaking with my liaison. And I said to her, we were talking about different things, and I said to her, yeah, I'm not sure about my legs because I have lipedema. And she said, oh, we have now, I have to read this, a 4D vaser liposuction machine, and that the doctor that you want to use uses water-assisted liposuction for lipedema. And I was like, wow. So all the way along this track, I've found these doctors that I had no clue knew about lipedema. So, so she gave me a quote, and this is not the final quote. This was just chit chat for both my legs if I had everything done. So the liposuction and from the thigh down to the ankle, because my legs would require that. 11,000 Australian dollars total for both. So that, considering in Australia, my understanding it's more like $30,000 to $40,000. I'm very comfortable with that price. I am not going ahead with that just yet. I'm actually having my tummy and my neck, etc., done first, and I'm actually booked in for that. So I'm very excited about that. But I'm going to give myself time to heal, and the legs are such a big surgery. And if you were to come here for that surgery, if you were to travel here from Australia or America or wherever you come from, then you would have to stay in Thailand for 4 weeks if you had the leg surgery. So that they can make sure everything's okay before you leave. So that is the biggest surgery that they do. But yeah, I'm very excited about the fact that this company, and I still wasn't sure whether or not I was just going to be wearing leggings and compressions for the rest of my life and long skirts. But I think now I'm going to be looking further into and talking further with them, and I'm in constant contact with them into the fact that I'll eventually have my legs done here as well. So at, a third of the price. So, and that price, by the way, includes your anaesthetist, the hospital, your medications in the hospital, everything. And I said to her, because I said in Australia, everything's, like, oh, it was this much for the arms, and then the anaesthetist, and then the hospital, and then all the other things. And she says, "Oh, no, 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 that's everything." She said, "Oh, we won't pay for your taxi to the hospital." And I was like, "That's okay. We can do the taxi. That's fine." So now, this company I've been following for a really long time. If you want me to hook you up with my liaison, please let me know. Send me an email, Kylie at thyroidschool.com, and I will hook you up with her. But I am booked in 7 weeks' time. And I will, of course, do a video and bring you all the ups and downs. And in the meantime, I am preparing for this surgery like I do with everything else, by making sure my liver is in great condition with coffee enemas, and making sure I'm not drinking alcohol and lots of things like that, keeping my diet as clean as possible, and most of all, getting my head on straight, but with kinesiology and meditation and all of those things, to see a very successful outcome, which is exactly what I did with my weight loss surgery. It's exactly what I did with my arm surgery, and I'm getting myself strong. I'm currently filming a 30-day bike riding challenge down in the gym at the condo here. So I'm riding the exercise bike for 30 minutes every day to see what a difference that makes to the size of my legs or not, or increases the muscle tone or not. So I will bring you that as well once it's finished. But I'm also doing some light weights to increase the strength, and trying to up my protein as much as I can, just so that everything is metabolically great going into surgery. So, so that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm doing, and I'm very excited about it. I'm not at all worried. People go, "Aren't you worried?" And I'm like, "No, I've been following this company for a really, really long time." In fact, I was looking at them when I chose my surgeon for my arms, but because my arms had the lipedema in it, I was like, "Oh, I think I'll go with this lady in Australia," and all the things. But now I'm completely confident that in the knowledge that this doctor has, this, and I'm sure that all the doctors that this works with, this company, has similar knowledge. But there was a particular doctor that I wanted to go through right from the get-go, and he is familiar with this. So I look forward to hopefully bringing some kind of interview with him later on down the track, or at least finding out as much as I can on your behalf. Because if we can have lipedema surgery at a third of the price with a successful outcome, well, how can that be bad, right? So, and the first thing that I sort of went to with the respect of, oh, is that safe? And we often think things are not safe simply because they're not what we know, right? For example, we've been watching YouTube videos on Thailand for 4 years in our whole time, preparing for this move. And we would watch all these food videos where food is kind of room temperature in markets and not heated up and just out in the open. And we were like, oh yeah, we're never going to eat like that. That will make us sick in a heartbeat. What are we doing? Most of our food is room temperature, and we've not been sick in the 4 weeks that we've been here, and we feel great. So I think that it's just because it's something when we don't know, we immediately scared of it because we don't know. So the hospitals here, I've watched a lot of videos on the hospitals here, understand how top grade they are across the world. I think they're higher on the list. In fact, I know they're higher on the list than Australian hospitals. So I think it's just getting past that fear of, oh, it's a different country. Can you speak to the surgeons? That kind of thing. But I'm pretty sure they have enough, because they're a medical tourism company. They are. There's no other way of saying it. there's enough English speaking, and the liaison that I spoke, perfect English, perfect English. I had questions, I had little issues. She had no problem figuring out and quelling my fears and all that kind of thing. So I actually have no fears whatsoever with my upcoming surgery. I'm really excited for it. So I'm very lucky that I've already had my arms done. So I understand some of the things behind good healing with scars and that sort of thing. Is that going to say that it's going to be all fantastic? No, who knows? But I am very positive towards it and about it. And in this condo that we've got a bath, which is unusual in condos. So that's going to make it really easy for me to clean myself without getting my scar wet, because my first surgeon taught me that water is the enemy to scars and that you just try not to get wet until the scar is fully healed, which usually, is a challenge when it comes to showering and feeling fresh. But I managed it with the arms last time. For 10 weeks, I did not have a proper shower. So I am quite sure that I can do the same thing, being that I've got a bath here this time round. So, so by early next year, I'll be having a flat stomach, which will be insane to me after all these years, and won't look quite so 50 something with any luck. The bottom line is this is this is my reward, I guess, for the hard work that I've put in, the work that I've put into my self-belief, and knowing that I can do this, that I can get through this, and that you don't have to put up with where you're at. You just have to be ready for the next step, right? Each step that I've taken, I've been really confident in, but I've done the inner work. And unless you do the inner work to feel confident and safe and know that you're doing the right thing, then potentially healing could be problematic because you're full of fear, right? So that's, I would say, my key to success so far. I don't know what the future holds, but I will continue to do the inner work, to do the kinesiology, to do the meditation, to look at only positive things around this surgery. I don't sit in groups that talk about all the bad things that have ever happened. I just refuse to, because you just don't want to have that in your brain when you're looking at this kind of a surgery, right? So, so the first one will be December, and potentially the second one will be February-ish. And then if I'm still all happy and confident and know more about my legs, then I will be looking at doing that in around the July next year. So by Christmas next year, it'll be a whole new body, which will be crazy. Any of you that have lipedema out there, you'll know exactly what I mean. Even where I'm at now, we had last week, we had a big storm and it caused a flooding from the rooftop into the elevator shaft. And so we had to walk the stairs. Luckily, it's a low-rise building and it's 7 flights of stairs. And I could not have done that 3 years ago before my weight loss surgery. I don't know what I would have done. But not only are the elevators fixed, but when we go down to the gym and back again and other times, we're taking the stairs. Sometimes I'm not keen, I've got to say. I put up a little bit of a really, but I do it and I can do it. And that's the point, right? So you can't give up on yourself. Any opportunity or thing that, comes across your path that might be a way of fixing or helping you. Like right now, as I stand, I haven't lost all the lippy fat. That's what the surgeries are for. But I've lost all the other fat that lippy fat was attracting. And that made the world of difference to my health, to my physical fitness, to my ability to move and do all the things, right? So it's baby steps, and whatever comes across your path that you think, you know what, bugger it doesn't matter what other people say. I need to do that and I need to try it for me. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I went into gastric sleeve surgery thinking there's no way this is going to work for me because nothing else has. And from what I understand, many people go in thinking the same thing. And it worked. And sure, there are people out there that probably say, "Oh, yeah, it worked because you're a big eater." Nothing I can do about that, right? Yep, it makes me a bit sad that people don't understand thyroid disease to understand that often thyroid people just have no appetite, and it's really sad that people with no appetite can put on all this weight. Uh, but there's nothing I can do about that, and all I can do is do the things that make me feel good, both inside and out. And so that's the journey I continue to follow. That's the journey that I continue to pursue. And so I would like to encourage you that if perhaps a surgery is not on the cards for you because of cost, or, I've spoken to some people in Australia that don't realize you can go on the Medicare waiting list for gastric sleeve surgery. It might take a couple of years, but you can go on the list. So there are ways around all of these sorts of things, just like surgery was not a possibility for me to continue having surgeries in Australia, not a chance. Um, but having surgeries here, yeah, I can. I can afford that. And it turns out they know how to do it very well. So that's where I'm at. And that's what I wanted to share with you. If you have any questions, or if you want me to hook you up with my liaison and you want to talk about them yourselves, they even do gastric sleeve surgery over here with this company. So, and I know that there's a lot of Americans that do gastric sleeve surgery in Mexico as well. I don't know the companies there, but that might be an option as well. But don't let your country or your immediate surroundings to stop you from thinking what could be and perhaps working towards it, right? It took us 4 years to get to living in here after coming up with the idea. And for a while there, it didn't look like we were coming at all, right? But you just have to keep thinking, well, what do we do next? What do we do next? And that's what I continue to think with my health and with my lipedema and thyroid disease. I continue to, what's next? What can I do now? What can I work towards next? And that's all I can encourage you to do too, so that you can live a life that you enjoy. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm working towards always. I came across a metaphysical reason behind lipedema many years ago, and it was a lack of joy. And I am so practical, and I am so, Capricorn rising. Let's get the job done. It's always about work. So finding joy and chasing joy has also become a part of my life and a part of my pursuit of happiness, if you will. So message me, email me if you need to, Kylie@thyroidschool.com. Otherwise, leave a message if you've had the surgeries, or if you want to have the surgeries. Let's talk about it, okay? And otherwise, I will see you next Sunday. I have another video coming this week because I did creatine last week. I'm looking into diosmin and hesperidin this week, which looks very promising as well. So until next Sunday, I will see you all then. Have a great week. Bye.